Timmy's always rocking out at the end of that intro. Welcome everybody to another episode of Wednesday Night Live. We have a full cast. No Tommy today. He's working. Tommy's working. But we have the VapinGreek with us as our guest, Dimitris.
What's up? I know I'm not as good looking as Tony B, but you're just gonna have to do. You're just gonna have to do it right
You're
now.
better. You're better. And before we even start, I was laughing with Paul. I said I got to ask Dimitri this question. All right, you ready? Before we get into the intros,
Buddy, I'm ready.
Paul's laughing. If you get to pick, if you were a Greek god, what would be your specialty?
Oh God, that's easy. That's easy. That would be the goddess of love.
You can't take her spot.
Why not? Why not? Just because it's 2021. It should be equal opportunity for everybody. I mean, hashtag me too. I could be the goddess of love.
Hashtag me too.
You identify as Aphrodite?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, she has
I didn't even have to think about that.
You didn't have to think I thought it'd be a tough one. I thought for sure you're gonna go down. Okay, I can't be the goddess of war. Can't be. I figured you were gonna go something food wise. I figured like the god of food. Like
I can do without food, but I can't do without love.
No, without love, what is life worth without love?
Nothing. Nothing without love. Nothing.
Oh, yeah, we got Tim Swift with us. He is joining us, and Paul is back.
He said my last name. I must be in trouble.
Timmy? No, I would have had it said Timothy, right? When you were in trouble, did Mom say Timothy?
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Well, no, I take that back. Timothy was never really the in trouble name. It was more like Timmy.
Timmy?
Yeah. Well, she had to distinguish between me and my father because my father's name is Gary, but my grandmother nicknamed him Tim growing up. So there's two, even though he's not legitimate. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful how you talk in that house. Otherwise, it's the Mike Brady turn in the court. Where the guy. You remember that episode of in the Brady Bunch, where the guy was trying to get him for the car accident or something. He had the neck brace on, so Mike Brady stood up and threw the phone books over the over the wall, and the guy turned around. And they were like, "Oh, fraud." Anyway, never mind. Sorry, I'm old.
Don't go down that old path, Tim. Yeah. Don't go down. And joining us all the way from Australia, Mr. Foster's himself.
You've been told time and time again, we do not drink Foster's here.
I know you don't drink Foster's. I know. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing okay. Just a little bit tired, but I'm all right.
Yeah. You're dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of changes happening over there in Australia very quickly, without any of you guys being able to do a damn thing. We know your pain. We know your pain and your suffering. We're getting there. And Dimitri, how's your week going?
It's going good. I'm staying busy. A lot of things to do professionally. A lot of things to do with the family. A lot of things happening.
Holidays.
Politically as well.
Yeah.
Getting ready for a business trip to Canada Tuesday. Then I'm taking my daughter out to California to see BTS next weekend. And then I'm heading to Europe. Nonstop.
I feel your pain with those concerts.
Listen, I don't know what these Korean pop boys. First of all, I don't understand because they all look like girls, right? So it's a band of 5 boys or 6, whatever BTS is, and they all look like girls, and I just don't get the fascination with it.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's like $400 a seat. Who the fuck pays this? I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of money that these kids are making. But it's my daughter, so what can I do? I can't say no.
I always wondered with those guys, those bands from that area. I mean, because remember Yao Ming, how he had to donate 30% of his check to the country.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're in that same situation with them, where they're having to donate whatever they make a year to the country.
I'm sure 30% of what they make is probably the budget of a small country. I mean, they make crazy. Just to give you an example, they had the first concert that we went in New Jersey with her a couple of years ago, which, by the way, took me 3 days to be able to hear after that from all the girls that were screaming around me. They have this thing called an army bomb. It's basically a plastic tube that has an LED light inside on top. I mean, I manufacture in China. Max $3 if this thing, and it might be I might be on the high side, $3.
Yeah.
But this is the brilliant thing that they did. They put a Bluetooth in it, and that when you're at the concert, they can control it. So everybody that's holding this, when they change songs, they can change the
Oh.
light from blue to yellow. It's a nice, cool thing. $80 for the thing I paid in the stadium. $80. I felt like violated inside the stadium. I was like, what the hell?
You
But
got to do it.
everybody, 80,000 people, everybody had one.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to do it for your daughter.
Crazy.
I drew the line when we were all about concerts and with the boys and with my daughter, and she got to pick her first concert, and it's like it was pretty adamant about me taking her to her first concert. Well, unfortunately, her first concert she decided to go to was Britney Spears,
Oh, boy.
and I looked over at my wife. I said, "Nope, nope." And my wife, when she got back from that concert, she says, "You will not believe how many dads were there."
Yeah.
And I felt bad. I'd
go for Britney. I mean, at least I'd be able to see something.
Well,
My
this
other
is
daughter,
early, Britney.
I took her to a Rihanna concert. My oldest daughter, when she was younger, I took her to a Rihanna concert. I enjoyed that. It was a little bit something for me, at least. The songs were a little bit more, and she's good looking. But to see these Korean boys, I feel like I'm at a Thai lady boy, runway. I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's all fun, and then I'm leaving for work 20 days in Europe, so get to spend some time with her.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on a little bit about your guys' Paris trip and how things went there for you guys, and
the show itself was fantastic. It was great to be back with a little bit of normalcy. It was normal. A lot of people, everybody was checked for vaccination, and the rules were strict, but it was normal, man. We got to see our friends. We hadn't seen them in a couple of years, hug some people, talk to some friends, talk to some business. For me and Phil, it was good because we traveled before pre-COVID a lot, and we built a lot of relationships that have helped us out in business, and it also has created a huge friendship community ring. And so it was good to be back. The show itself was very, very successful. Europe, thankfully, France at least at this point is not just completely invaded by disposables. So it was good to see a variety of products and try new liquids. And overall, we had a great time. It was really, really good. And we got to go to VDLV in Bordeaux and shoot those videos that I think a lot of people enjoyed seeing about making tobacco leaves into nicotine. Was a really, really great experience for us.
Are they talking about what's going on here over there? Or was there talks?
Yeah, I mean, everybody that we talked to asked, like, they can't believe how bad it's getting over here in America. But I think that the era of the EU looking to the West is coming slowly to an end. It used to be where, you'd go to these countries and, like American liquid would dominate, right? Those days are over with. A lot of these countries have they make their own stuff now. They'll go heads to heads with any other company that's out there. As a community, of course, a lot of them are concerned because we care about Australians, we care about Greeks, we care about French. So I think in the same way the community is concerned. But I think business-wise, it's not as much as a pain as it would have been, let's say, in 2016, where American companies were dominating the European market. It's just not like that anymore.
Yeah, there's very few of them that are kind of a big deal over there, but it's still somewhat, that's American juice, got to have it. Attitude.
Yeah, I mean, there is that romanticism for a few companies and I think a few brands, but nowhere near we used to go to the Paris show and we'd have at least 100 companies there with American liquid, and I think in this show we saw one, or maybe two. That's it. Which was, and again, they didn't even have their own booth. It was kind of like somebody was bringing that, and it was part of a bigger booth or something like that. Yeah, so it's huge turnaround.
Wow, Tim. Paul, you can jump in there anytime you like.
What got me about the lab was from start to finish that there's no actually handling of the nicotine itself.
Oh my God. At VDLV, this company, Paul, I was so impressed with Charlie and his team. About 100 people work in the factory and about 15 people work in their science lab. But seeing the when he told us the process, because we did it the day before where we went and kind of talked about the process. When he told us that from the moment that the leaf is picked and brought into the factory to the time it becomes nicotine that we use and put in our bottle, and we actually use that nicotine in our tank, nope, it doesn't see air.
Yeah,
And
I know. That's
it
what
was
blew
just
me away.
it was just unbelievable. And I mean, of course, very, very impressive facility, very impressive, but mostly think about this. They have done such a great job to put him in a position with the government, because not only they've created jobs through the manufacturing facility, not only have they created jobs through their network of shops and the retail and the distributors, they also created farming jobs. Farming jobs is for any country, it's one of the most important, even here in America, right? Here, all the farmers are getting subsidized by the government. So the fact that they were able to go to the government and say, hey, look, we're going to be growing this tobacco here. This tobacco is going to be used exclusively for e-liquid. It's not going to be used for combustion. The government's checking them. They don't pay tax on it like if it was being used for cigarettes. It just positioned them so favorably with the government that I think that even if something bad came down the pipeline, I think that the government would give them some protection simply from an economic standpoint. So very brilliant individuals, and they took a lot of pride in the work. They took a lot of pride in what they've created, and I can't wait to see what they're going to come up with. I know they have big plans, so I was glad to make this connection and meet them, and now we've become friends. We broke bread, had enjoyed some really nice wine and conversation. I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like both of the videos, like the extraction process and how it doesn't hit air, that blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
The whole science behind what they've put into it as to what they get out of it, and then the testing, and they can back up everything that they're putting forward and actually releasing to the market, and then the manufacturing side of it, it was absolutely brilliant. I just sat there. I've watched the video now about 5 times.
Yeah, that's on Phil's page,
like, wow.
correct?
Yeah, it's on People's Starter, youtube.com/People's Starter. It says
Right.
VDLV, and
I got it. Yeah.
And I want to clarify something. I told Phil, we had this I said we need to break this down into 2 videos, and unfortunately, because I know exactly what's going to happen, nobody gives a shit about science, unfortunately, which is an unfortunate part of the vaping consumer. I think if the consumer was paying attention more to science and what they're putting in their bodies, things might have been even better in America for the last decade, but we broke it down into 2 because there was a first time that we've ever shown tobacco leaf becoming into e-liquid, and then we took the scientific part and put it into the second. You can see the numbers. The scientific video doesn't have a many, but I do highly suggest that you go watch this scientific video, because there's tons of information in it that will help you even if you are in an advocacy fight, because they do explain things a little bit differently. They do explain some of the processes that they go through, and at the end of the day, they are very confident to tell you that we know exactly what is in this bottle and exactly what emissions it's going to put out into your device when you inhale it. And I think that that's important moving forward in a regulatory framework for any government. We're going to see that, we saw it with the TBD a little bit, but as things progress, even with TBD3 in Europe, we're going to see a little bit more requirements and testing and stuff like that. So it's very, very important to pay attention to what these guys are doing. They're way ahead of the game. And they're not the only ones, by the way. Alpha Liquid and a few more other companies in France are on that level. Maybe not as the level to produce their own nicotine, but as far as testing and stuff like that, they're very, very serious about the product they're producing. When you're producing 1 million bottles a month, there's so much liability that goes along with it as well too. So you have to make sure that you have that testing, and you have to have consistency in your product. Because you stand to lose a lot. This is a multi-million-dollar company. So I get I get what they're doing, and both of the owners are vapors as well too. So they care about what they're vaping.
Well, how do we get the U.S. side of the coin to pay attention to any of that outside the obvious?
We can't because we're not doing it here. I can say anything that I want to here. I talk to legislators all the time. Don't forget, I've had a state association since 2014. So I talk to legislators from a local city council meeting all the way up to the federal level. And I can tell them that in the UK they do this. I will tell you that 99% of the time a legislator will be like, okay, well, what are we doing here? Well, here, we're mixing in a bathtub and we're putting cartoons on a label. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And nobody took this serious in America. I mean, I always sound like I'm always the Debbie Downer and I'm bashing everybody, but these are facts, folks.
Yep.
We tried to start AIMSA here in America in 2014. Everybody jumped on him. Oh, we don't need a regulatory. Who do we need to tell us how to make liquid? We know how to make liquid. We tried to start Vape-Free Youth in 2015 to put some nomenclature and labeling guidelines on the bottles. I was almost eaten by this industry when I did that, which was an effort between me and Enjoy at the time.
Yeah.
We tried to make some, a Cold Bishop go through in 2016. We got eaten by like nobody wants regulations here, and this is the result. This is where we are right now. Nobody wanted to take this seriously, and the government ran all over us.
Yeah. We talked about that on this show. It was just this fight between distributors and a fight between vape shops and companies, and everybody wanted this and they wanted that. When they should have we talked about it. They should have just sat down and said, "Hey, we're going to have to accept regulations. Yeah, it's going to benefit you a little bit, benefit me a little bit." They should have came to a common ground. Instead of saying, if I can't have this on the distributing side, then I don't want to deal with it. And that was the biggest problem. Everybody was fighting each other because there was just millions and millions of dollars coming in. And it's just sad because none of those people used any of that money for research. It was all going to fucking Instagram marketing and all that other nonsense.
Absolutely.
And none of it was going towards the science of it. There was a perfect opportunity in the beginning. Those guys were making millions, hand over fist.
Oh, absolutely.
Hand over fist.
At the highest point, this industry was probably bringing in about $7 billion a year. I mean, we're talking the golden years that I call between 2016 and 2018. Those were the golden years of vaping, and none of it was spent wisely.
No.
I say because some companies did spend money, but they didn't spend it wisely, right?
Yeah.
So we gave money to this group and to that group, blah, 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 all these, just like we have 3-letter acronyms for our opponents, we have 3-letter acronyms here that came by and took a bunch of money and didn't do absolutely nothing. And ultimately, what we needed to do is self-regulate first, right? The FDA does not know how to regulate this industry, so they look to the stakeholders, right? So when they look to the stakeholders and they say, okay, well, what association do you have for e-liquid manufacturing? And we say, well, we have AIMSA. And AIMSA has 16 members. Well, how about the other 1,000 people that make liquid? What organization are they a part of? Oh, they're part of a, let's all just circle jerk and just see what comes out in the bottle, and
I don't want to vape that.
Just it's probably still better than smoking though. But I mean, whatever. But what I'm saying is that our industry needed to provide guidance to the FDA. If we went to the FDA and said, look, we manufacture A, B, C, D. We have GMP standards, C, D, E, F. We have this. We test for this. And everybody's on the same. We're all doing the same thing. Now we have a standard to submit to the FDA and say, look, this is what all the stakeholders are doing. Nobody did that. Nobody did that except AIMSA. But AIMSA does not represent the majority of the industry in America.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not bashing AIMSA at all. I think it was a valiant effort. Well, one effort that started so bad and continued to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Even I was a member for Mountain Oak Vapors when I was working, and we pulled out as well too. It just got so bad. So people were paying money for AIMSA. You pay to be a member, but the result, there's no fruits of that labor that came out, and that was unfortunate. We literally don't have a standardized bottle size in America. We don't have we don't have standard on how we're going to mark nicotine. Some people use percentage, some people use milligrams, some people use a Sharpie. I mean, we have no standards at all. At all. I mean, literally at all. Everybody's doing whatever they want to. So it's very hard for any agency to take us seriously. And we saw that with the cookie cutter response and the MDOs that they sent out.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like for me in the beginning, the first thing I kind of noticed, it was just like, well, you had the premier lines, then you had the guys that were making it at home, selling it through Facebook and through word of mouth. And it just seemed like none of those two guys were ever, came to a common ground. They're like, oh, you do it your way. Oh, you're the premier line. We don't want to be that. We want to keep it like it was in the beginning. You know, I get tradition; they want to keep it the old ways. But when an industry goes from say $500,000-$600,000 a year industry to billions of dollars, you have to. And I start opening. People have to set some sort of standard for what we're putting in our bodies. And I think if I were to do a poll today, I think that would still be the number one issue, even for big manufacturing companies, is the consumer wants to know what they're putting in their body. Even though,
yeah, I agree. I agree. However, it seems like the vapor is not that much of a concern about that as well too. And I will tell you that we have this as consumers, especially in the West. We have this. I've talked about this at a conference in Europe one time, but when I buy this bottle of sparkling ice, right, and it's sealed, and I look at it, and it has all the nutritional facts in the back and the barcodes, I automatically assume that this bottle was manufactured at a facility somewhere that adheres by guidelines.
Yeah.
I automatically assume. I never looked into who makes sparkling ice. I just assume. So when you buy a bottle of liquid and it's sealed like that, and you see the label on top, you automatically assume the same thing. Right, you're not going to sit there and think about, oh, was this made in a bathtub or not, right? Yeah. So a lot of people took advantage of that in the industry, and were able to build these brands based on marketing and not based on ingredients. We saw this when some of these companies went to Europe. When I was telling them in Vegas in 2016, hey, listen, guys, diacetyl and all, got to watch that in Europe. They're going to be testing for it. Everybody was laughing until they got to the TBT testing and they saw that it was required. So. Look, I mean, I'm being so negative, and I don't want to be negative.
No,
the truth is that the PMTA is a very, very difficult pathway for our industry to go by. No, there's no doubt about it. But it didn't help that our industry didn't do nothing about it when we knew that this was coming since 2014. We knew since 2014 that this is coming. And it took literally 7 years. I mean, it's not like we found out and it happened the next day. We had plenty of time to prepare ourselves and go to the FDA and say, look, we are 1,000 companies in America right now that are producing liquid. These are our standards, and we need a different pathway. All we told the FDA is, like, we don't like the PMTA. Do something else. Well, guess what? The FDA doesn't work like that. The FDA has one guideline, and this is what Congress gave them. We're going to regulate this, and this is the pathway that you got. You don't like it? Tough shit. You're going to get an MDO, and that's what they did. They sent MDOs to everybody out. So, yeah, I mean, I lost a little bit. I kind of sidetracked a little bit there, but to your original point, yes, a lot of people do care on the levels of harm, which is something that we talked about in France. Like, if you vape your favorite liquid at 20 watts, is it the same if you're going to vape that same liquid at 40 watts? Well, I guarantee you that any manufacturer that you're going to ask is not going to be able to answer it, except these guys. These guys in France, if I ask them, they'll tell me. They'll tell me this level of threshold, right? Nobody's even talking about that. Like this acceptable level of each liquid, depending on the ingredients and the way it's being used. The parameter, the third parameter, which is the use of the product. You have the atomizer, you have the liquid, and then you have the person that's actually using those two things, and how do they use it in the real world? So a lot of people, they do care in those levels, but there's a lot of people out there that simply just,
cheap juice.
Yeah, they just it's just about, hey, can I get a gallon for $1.50?
Yeah.
Right. So is it that we've just? I mean, are we going to get to a? Well, I mean, are we at a point now where it's too far gone, and there's no way to create some kind of a reset and gain confidence of the government at this point? Are we just going to?
There's absolutely no way through that pathway. The only thing that we can do right now, and I've said this multiple times in the last 6 months, is everybody stop spending money on stupid shit and take the money. All the big manufacturers need to take some money and put it in a PR campaign. This is the only thing that would save vaping immediately in America. We need to be on CNN and on Fox News and every other network before, some fucking person gets mad at me because I didn't mention their political party. Anywhere you want to. And all mainstream media, we need to be on there and say, hey, look, 500,000 Americans are dying every year, and the FDA is removing the best proven method of quitting smoking.
Right.
This is what our government is doing right in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of an opiate issue, in the midst of, I can go on and on and on the issues that we have in America. The majority of politicians and the FDA is worried about removing the only way to do that is to buy airtime on mainstream media. This is a country that's how it works. I don't care how noble your cause is. It's not going to change until we buy PR. We need to be able to buy advertising space on these channels and have 30-second spots that say, according to the Royal College of Physicians, vaping is 95% less harmful. According to the New York the youth study that came out, youth vaping and smoking is an all-time low. We need to be able to put that out there. And then when you spend money with the networks, right, when you're buying ad space with BET and CNN and all that, every time that issue is brought up, somebody from our industry will be there to represent us because we spend money with them. They're not going to bash you on their news when you're buying airspace with them. They're going to give you the opportunity to respond. So depending on the interview, we can take Ray Conley, we can take Brad Rodu, we can take all these smart people and stick them on there for 4 minutes on a panel on CNN to say, hey, hold on a second. No, we don't have a kid vaping problem. Look at the numbers. These are the real numbers. We don't have that right now. So that's the only thing that's going to change it. There won't be a change in the pathway. The only way to change the pathway is to have the government say, hold on a second, what's happening over here? Now we need to slow this thing down.
That would also then play into dispelling a lot of the misinformation that's also put out there.
Oh, absolutely.
By getting the airtime, it'd be brilliant.
And it's the truth. It's not like you're lying. We're not trying to manipulate it like our opponents. Our opponents are using mainstream media to manipulate it, right? The reason why we're losing this fight is because we're being outspent on mainstream media. Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, PAVE, they have all this, billions literally of dollars that they can spend, and they're going out there and they're lying. I mean, proven lying in what they're saying. It's not scientifically correct, but they're still allowed to because they're spending money, advertising dollars, as what they call it. And I found out a lot about this a couple of years ago when me and Brent Stafford and Matt Culley were putting together this PR package. So I didn't even know how the system works. Brent Stafford was very, very insightful to teach me a lot of these things. And then when I started talking to ad agencies and ad buyers and campaign headquarters and all these people, it was really, really eye-opening to see that at the end of the day, we just got outspent in the mainstream media. Boom, that's it. That's how we lost. That's how we lost the big war.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot on this show. It's just how it needs to get outside of our community, and I've always said that it's just this vicious circle, just us, just constantly just talking to each other, tweeting to the same people. And just we need to get the if we don't get the non-smoker on our side, the one that doesn't smoke, the one that doesn't vape, this will never work. It'll never work.
Right? And people need to be informed to know, like. Yeah. When people see me vape now, it's just like I just killed their mom.
Right.
I mean, it's so weird where we used to be proud and now it's just like, oh God, I gotta explain this for 45 minutes to, Billy Bob Jr. down here. I don't have, the energy anymore. But you're absolutely right. Your average person that doesn't smoke and vape needs to understand what this product is. Once they do that, and then they're gonna say, well, hold on a second. You mean to tell me that we got a vaccine out in 8 months, and this industry has been around since 2010, and the FDA has not approved that, a product that millions of people use? What's going on? And what can happen in my life? If they're going to do this with vaping, can they do something that's going to affect me? Whether it be guns, whether it be drugs, whether it be
coffee,
weed, whether it be coffee, it could be anything. And look, now they're coming after weed as well too. Don't think that the weed guys got away, right? No. So the more you put this into their head with the facts, because we're going to be telling the truth, then that shifts policy, because politicians start to get afraid when people start thinking it for themselves and not being triggered by the media. So it's very, very important. A PR campaign is desperately, I would say it's the bottom of the ninth with 2 strikes, and the PR campaign is the only home run we have right now.
Yeah, to me, I always talk about Blue, but what happened to all those people? Because when Blue came out, I had thousands, well, not thousands, a couple hundred people every day telling me, oh, you should try that. You should try that to get off smoking. Where did all those people go that all of a sudden, because it's our generation, let's be honest, it's our generation that's saying that are absorbing all this negative policy on vaping. It's the person that's in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Let's be honest. They're the ones that vote. They're the ones that show up to frickin' city council meetings. You know, I've been to a lot of city council meetings, and I guarantee you the last time I saw somebody in there in their mid-20s, it's been a long fucking time. Everyone in there is in their late 40s, early 50s, and 60s, you know. So where did those people go? Because those people were killing me when that thing came out. It was on Phil Donahue. It was on how many talk shows just praising this product and how great it was.
Times changed. Advertising restrictions changed as well, too. And then the stigma became, you know, and Blue kind of got left behind because they didn't advance with the times here. Keep in mind that Blue does very well in Europe.
Yeah.
It does very well in Greece. It does very well in Germany. So it's not like it's dead here because they want it to be dead. You know, these are big tobacco products that Big Tobacco has this brilliant strategy. They're like, oh, well, you know, FDA says we have to remove flavored pods. Yes, master. Yes, master. We're going to remove flavored pods. You know, we want you to do 21. Yes, master. Yes, we're going to do 21. They go along with everything because guess what? They have the alternative product to sell.
Yeah.
So they're like, if we're not going to sell vape, we're going to sell cigarettes. It doesn't make any difference to us until everybody's gone. And then we're going to be selling our vape products and our cigarettes. So we're going to sell all the nicotine by ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if these companies like Blue and Juul were serious about tobacco harm reduction, they would fight for flavors and they'd win. Yeah. They would win. But they don't want to fight the system because they know how to work the system. Yeah. We're the only ones fighting, but we're the ones that are looking like assholes now because they're telling us that we're trying to hook their little Timmy on nicotine, right? But the big tobacco companies look very serious.
Yeah. Who ended up buying them?
RJR bought Blue.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, British American Tobacco.
Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Well, I mean, the parent company is British American Tobacco.
Yeah, it's always a parent company.
Yeah. That's like 34 companies before it gets down. But again, Blue and Juul, I can go on and on. There's plenty of products that have gone down that route. Yeah. But the fact that in America, the political strategy of these companies is working the system, it goes to show you that it's not a matter. I never believe, as much as it sounds, I see these advocates on Twitter praising, PMI and praising these other companies, blah, blah, blah. I never buy into that. Because if you truly care about tobacco harm reduction, then you care about flavors, period. It's been proven, scientifically proven again with surveys and science that has been done already. So once you remove your flavor product, you cannot tell me that you're looking for a smoke-free future because adults, the overwhelming majority of adults, over 90% in our survey that we did with 70,000 people, use flavored product. Yeah. What's up, Paisan?
Nicholas.
Hey, Paisano. What's going on?
What's up, buddy?
Someone got guns. I figured I'd hop on.
Yeah, heck, you're always welcome on here. You're our number one guest.
Well, apparently Tony B is, but he can't make it today. So we're taking second runs over here, Nick. But that's all right.
We got 2 Italians, 1 Greek. Tim is what are you, Tim? Irish?
Irish American.
Is
Irish English, whatever.
You are the world.
Yeah, I'm not very worldly. No.
I guarantee you that
I'm white bread.
I guarantee you that Tim has some McDougal in him somewhere down the family line.
I do, about that much.
Oh, Paul, you got anything you want to bring up, Australian wise?
Look, there's a few changes happening here in Australia, but the whole prescription model is falling apart even before it gets going. Now we're hearing that some of the pharmacies want to now start selling Nick shots in anywhere between 18 and 72 milligram, like 10 mil bottles. We've also seen the price of nicotine skyrocket here now, $30 100 mils for 100 milligram. Yeah, it's getting a little bit out of control down here, but we're just waiting now for the TGA to, I don't know, either back down or wait for the new survey and study that they're doing for next year to see what the financial impact is on the actual health system, the whole actually visiting a doctor. The figures that are coming out from the government don't support what's actually happening. We're seeing disposables now in every corner store that they weren't here 12 to 18 months ago. They're everywhere now. And the black market is just growing day by day by day. We're, trying to even get meetings with the lawmakers here. It's near impossible. But we do know, okay, $15, but you've got to also understand that you have to import it, so you're paying the import taxes, you're paying your freight costs. So that $30 bottle of 100 milligram will then end up costing you about $60 by the time it lands here in Australia. Liquid prices are going up, which is, I don't have a problem with liquid prices going up, but the other thing is there's no clarity on ingredients here. They've only given us a very short list of what can and what can't be used. There's no bottle size regulation. There's none of this stuff. And we don't have an open pathway here anymore. There's a couple of large manufacturers, but the majority of manufacturing now is going on in New Zealand. We're importing everything. We're not manufacturing here in Australia. It's ridiculous. We want to give people jobs.
6 submarines all the way around. I'm giving you $1 billion ideas here.
Yeah.
I'm with you on this, Dimmy, and the struggles that I'm having here at the moment. Even a simple phone call, you don't get a reply for 5 days, or an email, you won't get a reply for 5 days.
Well, nobody knows what they're doing, which is always the case when government passes laws that they don't know how to enforce or answer. So nobody knows how to answer. That's probably why everybody's avoiding it, and it's going to be like that until they realize, oops, maybe we need to take a look at this again.
Oh, exactly.
You could
it's
do what they
scary.
were doing in Mexico. When they were shipping in the marijuana, they would put it on boats. When my nephew was in the Coast Guard, they would buy old wooden boats, 2-man boats, and they would just pile marijuana into it and just let it float up the coastline. And they would send 20 or 30 of them up there. And if 2 made it, 2 made it. If they didn't make it, they didn't make it. And he said every night they would just bring in 3 or 4 or 5 of those boats that were just floating. They would just float from Mexico up into Seattle, and these guys would just pick up these boats and just take whatever they can, and hopefully they would get 1 or 2. They didn't care.
for some
Florida,
black
they just
market,
throw the
man.
bales in the water. They don't have boats. You just see bales floating up here. They
I
make
do
all
kind of
black
kinds
market,
of
man.
really
They don't have boats in Australia.
Me and Nick are going to open up a Vapors Depot submarine. It'll be
I kind of like the
miles-
idea of the submersible vape shop.
17 miles off the coast over there down in Florida, and then you meet us down at the pier and
At
get
the
what you
pier
want.
with the jacket. What do you want?
That's right.
What flavor you want?
What's crazy about
Why are all of a sudden 13 million Americans totally into diving? I don't. We can't keep oxygen tanks in stock to save our lives, so I can't figure that shit out.
No, what's the crazy thing that Paul has to deal with is they're not even allowed to lobby.
Yeah,
Like
they're
they
not
can't do anything.
I can't do
They
nothing.
won't talk to anybody. It's insane.
Yeah.
Based on the conversations
Well, I
I've
mean,
had.
it takes money in those kind of countries, and Europe is the same way. The ones that have huge influence are able to get close to the politicians. In Greece, IQOS puts on events, which is illegal based on the law. Puts on events, and you see the hierarchy of the priesthood there. Top prime ministers and elected officials at these events, movie stars, soccer players, models, A, B, C list. I can go on, and then they get a fine for 5,000 euros, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna pay the fine, and we're done. It's completely illegal to do it. But we can't do it as a vaping industry. I'm part of the trade association in Greece as well too. If we did it, they'd come and lock us up. So lobbying in Australia is a very, very very expensive proposition that unfortunately the industry is not up there yet.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It's hard. It's even hard to, speak to the TGA or the Therapeutic Goods Administration. They're the Australian equivalent of the FDA. They don't want to talk to us. They don't want to talk to the industry leaders either. They don't want to speak to the manufacturers that are here. There are a couple of big labs in Australia, but New Zealand's still got that down pat. United States, we're still importing from there. Everything's imported. We do not manufacture here as such, not on mass scale. And trying to get a lab off the ground in Australia, the hurdles that the government have put in front of us are just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
We need to import Dimitri and Nick to Australia to work for you guys. That's what you just import them to over there.
I'm going to virgin markets, my friend. I'm not going to markets like that. I'm going to Albania. I'm opening a store in Albania next month, buddy. I'm going where it's communist. That's where I want to be in, right there.
But it's
I can
summer.
pay off a couple of officials in Albania. I don't have any problem. In Australia, I can't pay off anybody.
Yeah.
You know how to get out in front of it. It's the fight, man. The fight is like, it's never ending. You get tired, man. I'm at that point. I'm pretty sure Dimitri is.
I was at that point 2 years ago, Nick, but I'm still, I mean, I was last year I was going to retire from the TSFA. 7 years was enough. And then, we had all these hurdles that came up last year. So I said, okay, I'm going to tough it out one more year. And then this year, again, I was about to step down and turn it over to Nicole. And, I know they're going to lose membership. And I just don't want to, it's like a baby that I've built, being the first independent state association in America I want to walk away so bad. Trust me, I'm so tired. But at least for state level, I've kind of retired from the federal level, but on the state level, I'm still doing what I need to do.
Jimmy, I'm with you 100%. I've tried to step down for the last 2 years, and I have a lot of respect for what you did for all of the state organizations as well as Florida, getting it started and getting it kicked off. And I don't want to see it go away, but I'm ready, but nobody wants it.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you leave, there's going to be fallout, and that's unfortunate, right? You hate to see your baby fall. And that's
and then you get blamed for it as well too. And Dimitris Big Tobacco, and he left, and it all went to shit, and all these bad laws passed. That's exactly what's going to happen. I'm used to it at this point. I mean, I don't care. But that's the reality. You want things. A good association runs on its own, right? A good association, meaning you're financially stable, you have enough money to pay the right people, whether it be PR, lobbying, and so forth and so forth. And right where we were able to get to that point in 2018, 2019, when I started telling Nicole, hey, look, everything's going well. We got about 100,000 coming in every year, covers everything. I can step down. Then regulations came, bad things happened, and we lost membership. We lost, some shops just shut down. So it became really, really difficult. Having built a lobbying team all these years that has represented you in the Capitol year round, it's hard to just kind of like stop it. Because once you stop it, now that opens up the door to cancer and lung and all these other groups to step in and say, okay, now we don't have any opposition.
Right.
Also, the networking that we've done, we've worked with RJR, we've worked with some companies in National Tobacco in the background to try to get things passed. Once you lose an ally, then that company at that point says, well, I don't have anybody to fight. It'll be just me. So I'm not gonna fight anything. I'm just gonna sit back and let them do whatever they want to do. So there's a lot of bad things that can happen. But then, we're also human. So is my health less important that from a state association? I don't think so. But
it's tough. And I experienced the same thing last year, the year before. It's like, okay, the year before we, everybody in the industry helped pitch in on that SB 10 veto. I'm like, okay, we're going out on a high note. I'm tapping out. Well, then no. Then 1820 or 1860 came up, and it's like, okay, let's go with this one. Okay, now I'm done. Well, now we're getting ready to go into session in January, and I'm thinking, okay, January, 60 days. I'm done.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll be in the same boat. And,
we're going to see a lot of bad legislation this year, too, because a lot of the state groups are depleted. So, they're very methodical. They're going around city to city now, just like they did in California and in New York. And We're seeing that happen in Colorado right now, where they're going city to city. It's happening in Arizona. They're going city to city. So they know exactly what they're doing. So they're trying to squeeze this industry out. We're going to see synthetic nicotine legislation come out at least in 7-8 states this year. So we got a lot of bad stuff coming. So I got a little pride in me as well too. So I'm going to fight it again this year. I'm going to win because I'm a winner. So I'm going to fight it. I'm financially stable to be able to at least one more year go, and then from there on we'll see. We'll make the decision next year.
Yeah,
That's
kind
where
of.
I'm at.
Yeah. Kind of getting back to the way things are done in England, and you're talking about the news, and why do you think that stays out of the media? Don't you think like CNN or Fox would show what is going on in England as far as them being in hospitals but that's what I'm saying. That is newsworthy stuff, but you don't see that.
It's not newsworthy because it's not bad, and it's not if it doesn't it bleeds, it leads in America, unfortunately. I mean, look how many people are infatuated with these two trials that are going on right now
I know.
with Rittenhouse and down there in Florida. So this is what people want to see, and the media. Again, the media would project more of that if we were able to be in a position to have a PR firm that has an ad buyer that buys ads into these channels. They would be more prone to show stuff like that, because once you have an ad buyer and he's buying advertising with BET, for example, or ESPN or CNN or Fox News or whatever, then that ad buyer also becomes your liaison between you, meaning the group that's buying, and the network itself. So you can feed through that PR company, some of this really, really good stuff that's coming out. For example, the retracted study on the stroke the other day, people are still using that study into bashing vaping right now in mainstream media, even though the study has been retracted. That would be a perfect example where your PR firm takes this and puts it right on CNN and says, oh, guess what? Lung Association here just tweeted that this study has been retracted, right? So that's the benefit of having a PR firm. If you don't have that liaison between you and mainstream media, you're not going to get any of that good stuff on there, unfortunately.
Yeah, you would figure it'd get a blurb.
If there were 10 people dying from vaping, that would be on the news.
Oh, that hit the news. That would hit the news hard. It would be.
You saw what happened with the Valley.
Yeah, you guys. I mean, you get it. That's why that's not being up there, John.
I know, but you put the C word in there, cancer, and you see the battle and the numbers that they have in England and how they're controlling and smoking rates are dropping and people are feeling. I mean, for God's sakes, they put them in fucking hospitals, dude. I mean, Jesus Christ. You would think they would get 3-minute fucking segment on Fox.
You're starting to sound like Phil Busardo now, John. Let me tell you something. He has this romanticism as well too. Phil has this He's like, I don't understand why this is happening. I'm like,
I get it. I know it's advertising dollars and who's paying for what, but you would think that a story of that magnitude, that a country is going this far to save lives and actually are putting vape shops in hospitals and are offering free kits and all this other, you think they would get at least 3 minutes. And look at this. You got me fucking doing this with my hands now.
Well, the healthcare system is different there as well too, John. The government is not that they care so much about smokers. They care much about the bottom line. And in all of the financial models that the UK did, they figured out, hey, if we get people to quit smoking over the next 10 years, we're going to save billions of pounds, right? So this is the big motive there, is the healthcare system is different. Healthcare system in America is the mafia. Healthcare system in the UK is being paid by the government. So that's the two differences between the two countries. So here it's not only that we have the opponents that we have. Don't you think that the health insurance has a huge lobbying effort inside Washington, D.C.?
God, yeah.
Of course they want people to be continuously treated for tobacco-related illnesses because that's how they make money. So I get it. I mean, I get it, but it goes so much deeper than just that.
Yeah. I mean, my brother, I was telling you, he just got back from Italy. He said this is the first time that he saw so many people vaping there. He goes, this is the first time I didn't see cigarettes in people's hands. He goes, everywhere I walked, everybody was vaping. everywhere, the coffee shops, at the stores. Everybody didn't have. We're so used to going to Italy and having 16 people standing next to you smoking a cigarette. And he said, there was still people smoking, but the vapors outnumbered the smokers. And he said it was the first time he could ever remember seeing that in the 25 years of going to Italy.
Yeah, you see it in Europe in general, in a lot of countries. That's not just in Italy. Greece is the same. France,
Greece.
a lot. Spain, Portugal, we've seen it a lot. Obviously, the UK, you see it tons. But there is that shift of nicotine delivery in Europe. But keep in mind that per capita, they have more smokers as well too.
Yeah.
So here, there's a lot of closet smokers in America, because there's such a stigma with it, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to go out to a coffee shop and see people smoking here because it's not allowed.
Yeah.
You can't even smoke 25 feet away, in front of the entrance. In Europe, it's different. You can smoke when you get off the plane in the airport. Where you used to till about like 6 years ago. But you get what I'm saying. That smoking is more accepted in Europe, so there are way more per capita smokers. And you see them more because they're allowed to use the product. Where here, everybody goes and hides behind a dumpster to smoke a cigarette.
Oh yeah,
It's cultural there. It's cultural too. Huge.
This last couple of weeks, I've had to spend some time at the hospital, and I was shocked to see the people that were vaping, the nurses that and having to there they have to walk all the way off the campus to the sidewalk to the bus stop to actually smoke or vape there.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Here
they need to get in touch with me. I need to teach them how to stealth vape, baby. I'm a stealth vape pro. I vape everywhere.
Can't even.
I vape in church, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah. They can't even vape in their cars in the parking lot at the hospital here. If they get caught vaping in their cars, they will get fired. So they have to walk all the way out to the street. Yeah. And of course, I have to too because I'm just a visitor there. But I was shocked to see how many people were vaping. And I'm thinking to myself, "You're a fucking nurse. You're a doctor. Get on our side, God damn it. Do something. Don't just accept
they
this product.
Can't they can't there's a lot of dual use as well too here, unfortunately. A lot of them vape because they don't want to smell like cigarette at work, and then they smoke when they go home. And then I'll be completely honest with you, my pathologist here, she's a great black female doctor. I've had her for almost 14-15 years now. She's seen my progression. I've actually helped 2 of her nurses quit smoking with starter kits that I got them. So she is completely buying into the fact of vaping being less harmful. She suggested to her patients that have COPD or can't quit with the available methods. And I've told her many times, I was like, hey, why don't you come on the show that me and Phil do and talk about it? And she's like, I can't. She's like, the pharmaceutical, they would ostracize me. They make so much money off the pharmaceutical. I mean, just flat out told me. So the system here is really, really corrupt. That's basically what we end up with.
It's the same thing and the same response we got from the Moffitt Cancer Center here in Tampa. Imagine having the Moffitt Cancer Center come testify with you in Tallahassee, our capital. Yeah, it would have been great. And they preach it. They send people to vapor products, but they cannot. None of them cannot. They point blank told us, we will get a black eye. And some of them are on the nicotine committees and talk to, Clive Bates and all those guys, but they're like, we can't get out there. We just cannot put it out there.
And what studies have we done here, Nick? I mean, every time we try to raise money for a study, I got blasted every time. Every time I try to raise money for a study, I would get blasted. What studies have we done? What studies has the industry done here in America on their products? Tell me one. One that let's say you get 5 manufacturers together. Let's all put $200,000, give $1 million to a university to do a study on e-liquid. Nobody. Why are people not thinking about stuff like that? I mean, what makes more sense? Give it to an independent body here. And say, here, do a study and tell me what emissions you get this under real conditions, right? Using the product correctly, and give me some emissions and just make a peer review published study and put it out there. Nobody did that. Remember in Tampa, me and you were in a club somewhere, and I turned around and Aaron Biebert was there, and I said, why don't we just give $5 million to the Lung Association? Just give, especially the American Lung Association that's hurting for money. Cancer is making a lot of money, but lungs kind of forgotten, right? It's like the stepchild of nonprofits. Let's all just give $5 million to American. Let's donate and just tell them, hey, look, all we want you to do is look at the science and then say, Try pills, gums, patches, enemas, whatever the fuck you want to try to quit smoking. And if that does not work, here's another option. And there's vaping as well too. Everybody laughed at me. I mean, Nick was in front. He saw, but people thought I was crazy. But think about it. If we had at least one of these nonprofits on our side, maybe things wouldn't be that bad right now.
And to your point earlier, we just keep doing the wrong thing over and over and over. The next savior comes and let's throw money at it. And the next one comes and throw money at it.
So what happened to the messaging that all these groups had kind of like, I don't want to say flippantly throughout, but I mean, I see it all the time on Twitter where people like, now it's so many that you can barely read all the little mini tweets and shit, but it's like all these little tweet blocks from all these same companies who at one point in time were endorsing vaping. And then all of a sudden it was like a complete 180 to the point that, now we spend our day on Twitter, countering these, propagandized statements that they like to make now.
Well, we still have support, but we don't have support by anybody that's being taken serious. Right. That's what it boils down to. The ones that have the huge influence in America. I mean, America is the biggest capitalist country, so the huge corporations will always prevail, right? And the huge corporations are American Cancer, American Lung, and PAVE, and Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, and these are the ones that are influential in America, and they're the ones that have the most money as well too. Yeah. So you might have this one Yale study that came out, but who the fuck? Nobody's gonna know about that. It's never gonna see the light of day. And we don't have the means, as Nick said, because we've been always looking for that savior, that savior figurehead, and if you have an idea that doesn't match with what these guys are doing, automatically they discredit you and they try to, because they're not involved, right? So everybody wants to be that savior, but nobody's been able to do that. And in our industry, because it is a baby industry, okay, let's not forget, we've only been around for 10 years, right? And there's some people in this industry that unfortunately just don't have that business sense. They, you see people that are making business decisions based on Facebook. That's how immature we are, right? Yeah. So they're looking to that one guy that says, "Oh, I have a FDA memo that's going to, save," right? Just like we saw a few years back, and people believe that, and they go throw money at it, and then that person takes the money and buys a new house, and we're still at ground zero, and that mentality at some point has to change if there's anybody left by the time it changes.
Yeah,
right.
Yep. Well, and the moment somebody, to your point, Tim, somebody comes up that has credibility, they all of a sudden it gets stripped away. If they mention vapor and the positive benefits of the technology, their credibility is now stripped away, and that's their fear.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of throw this out there because a lot of e-liquid that is made today is made at a distributing center. It's made by an actual science lab. It's a lab, pretty much. They don't just make vape e-liquid there. They make other products there. How much liability do they have in helping with the science part of it? These are labs. These are dedicated labs that make other products there. How come they don't jump on board with us? And it's to their advantage. They're making money off of this industry. How come they don't help with the science in some way?
The percentage that we use, John, is minute.
It's minute.
Yeah. I mean, compared to other like flavoring companies and PGVG, and I mean, there's other companies that use way more than what we use. Number one, and number two, honestly, I think it's the stakeholders' responsibility. I
do too. I believe.
I don't think it's the consumer's responsibility. Not once did I smoked Marlboro for years. Not once did Marlboro ever tell me, "Hey, you need to go to town at Tallahassee with Nick Orlando, and you need to fight for your cowboy." Never. That's never happened. Yeah. Right. No. So, and I don't think that Marlboro went to the people that make the wrappers or the paper for their cigarettes and said, "Hey, you need to fight with us." It's the stakeholders' responsibility. That's what it boils down to. It's the industry that needs to step up, and they need to be able to sit down at a table and put their egos aside, which is a huge problem. I think that the ego is probably the biggest problem in this industry. Every time I've tried to get people in a room together, the only thing we ended up doing is taking out a tape measure, measuring whose dick's bigger. Yeah, that's all they do. And we're talking about conversations that went 8 hours. We're not talking about like 5-10 minutes, right? Yeah. So I think that the companies that are left that are still producing a lot of product in America, and there are quite a few, right? I think what they need to do is they need to pull away from everybody that's in their ear. I mean, everybody. I mean, everybody from the CASAs, the AVAs, the VTAs, all these acronyms, they need to pull away and hire a professional PR company and work with them directly and tell the PR company, listen, all we want you to do is change the perception of vaping in America. That's the message. What is it going to cost? 10 million? Here you go. Boom. $1 million each. Let's get this thing done. This is what is needed yesterday, not right now. Yesterday, they should have been done. And don't worry about any savior in vaping because nobody, not even me or
Not
Nick
even
can
me.
say vaping.
Well, is it maybe that, which is typical, Western behaviors, that we just kind of like imagine someone else is going to be the answer for us. So I feel like maybe people were hedging their bets on the fact that people would look at UK science or, take the Cochrane library seriously. Or I'm not saying that would have happened, but I'm thinking that there's some buried mentality that would be the silver bullet.
Sure, Tim, I agree with you. That could be possibly be it. But at what point do you say it's not working? Okay, this didn't happen today. This has been going on since the initial PMTA was dropped in 2014, end of 2014. Right, that's when the regulations were announced. Right, so we're talking about almost 7 years now. Yeah, maybe a little bit over 7 years. At what point do you say, oh, well, I guess this is not going to happen? When do we wait for this?
Right.
If you don't realize it by now, I don't think that you're going to be able to realize it at any time. Even if I say I told you so, because that's happened a lot. Where I've had these conversations all these years. Again, Nick is here present. He'll tell you this did not start now. I've been talking about this a long time ago. Even if you discredited me then, right? Forget about that. Just tell me now. What are you going to do now? Because synthetic nicotine it's a Band-Aid. It's not a long-term solution, right?
Yeah.
So what are we going to do now to change this?
And there's not, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, Tim, when you asked that question. I think there's a lot of people looking for the less expensive,
shortcut,
less active way to do things, and the easiest way is behind a keyboard, and that's okay for those people. But what Dimmy's saying is there's a group out there that I don't know exactly who they all would be, but that group needs to find each other or somehow get connected and do the PR thing and change the optics. But I think our industry, with the people that we have in it, with the no barrier thing and where we've gotten to this point, nobody listening, always looking for the savior, the less expensive way, the less
loophole
way that they could just kind of get in and make things get by. That's becoming something where it's no longer good enough. So they're going to have to either pick a lane and either do it or don't do it, right up to and including the synthetic stuff. I mean, now we're in a synthetic world, but how long is that going to last? I mean,
judging by the letter that was sent out today from the Democrats, definitely not. That's not going to. I mean, look, and to be fair, they're stupid. I mean, Elizabeth Warren and all these politicians are idiots because they don't understand the system. And the reason why I tweeted you that today is because in 2009 there was a judge's decision on vaping products. So the FDA did try to make this in pharmaceutical in 2007, where they stopped the shipments and NJOY took them to court. So there's no way that this product can go down the pharmaceutical route from a judge's decision. As long as you don't make therapeutic claims, there's really nothing that they can do. So the letter's kind of moot. But the point is that the pressure is on for something to happen. And what can happen, I will tell you what can happen in the next election, is Congress amends the Tobacco Control Act. They can do that, right? They easily can do that. Or the FDA comes out and makes, some ruling, but again, that's going to take time. I'm not going to say it's going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to take some time for them to issue ruling on synthetic nicotine. It could be a couple of years. That's the Band-Aid that I'm talking about, for a couple of years. That means for a couple of years, we can continue to sell your product and make money, take that money and utilize it. I think synthetic nicotine has, I said this at a show last week, but I'll repeat it again. I think synthetic nicotine has the opportunity to be the savior of vaping if the stakeholders go to the FDA and say, listen, you're in a pickle. Right now, people are dying from smoking in America. You're not going to prove anything to the PMTA. Why don't you open up a pathway for synthetic nicotine? Meaning, We'll put it under the Center for Tobacco Products, right? But it's not going to be considered a tobacco product. We'll create a set of strict guidelines on manufacturing, testing, manufacturing, labeling. The industry needs to do this, by the way. They're not going to let the FDA do it. They need to go and present this to them and say, look, now we have the opportunity. You get all the politicians off your back. You get the PAVE moms and all the campaign tobacco-free kids off your back. You get all these politicians off your back. We create a pathway for synthetic nicotine because this product, obviously, you're fucked. You don't know what to do with it. We'll give you the out.
Yeah.
Now, I'm asking you as a panel your thoughts. Who do you think from this industry that manufactures liquid with synthetic nicotine has sat down and discussed this with other manufacturers?
Not many.
Zero.
Goose eggs.
Zero.
So that's our
You're,
problem.
you're 100% right, though. You're 100% right, though, Dimmy. Synthetic, yes. 100%. It could be the savior for a number of reasons. We're not reliant then on the tobacco industry for base products so we can extract. They could, and the testing, yes. Also, flavor manufacturers also need to get on board with this as well and start opening the books. Like, no more secret squirrel. If you've got testing on your on the compounds that you're working with, that has to be released. And if you could create a pathway specifically for synthetic nicotine through the FDA, it would wake up all the idiots that are going backwards and forwards with the rest of the politicians and the monkey on their back. You're right, 100%.
But the only
I'll
thing is
back that hands down.
But the only thing, Paul, is that we have to do it.
Right.
The FDA, this is what people don't understand, is that you can't go to the FDA and say, okay, regulate us.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. The industry stakeholders present. If you tell the government to regulate us, you get TPD. It's exactly what you get. The TPD is exactly the prime example when you let the government regulate you, right?
Correct.
10 ml, 20 milligram, clearly a big tobacco lobbying push. And look what happened across Europe. So what we need to do is we need to create all this first and then take it to the FDA and say, hey, look, we need to have a pathway for this product because really there's nothing that you can do about it. And it's not you're not going to word it like I'm wording it because I'm wording it like a mafia guy that I'm blackmailing it. But you're going to word it in a way. You're going to word it in a way that makes sense for everybody. But also, it is a viable path because you need to have the FDA market authorized products for smokers in America. And the FDA realizes that. They just don't know how to do it through the PMTA because, let's face it, 99.9% of the companies cannot meet the threshold of the PMTA. And the FDA actually knows this. Don't think that the FDA is stupid. The FDA is not this boogie monster that's sitting in the corner and said, I don't like these fucking vapors. I'm just going to... But they can't... If they're going to approve this PMTA, then becomes public. People can go and see it. And PAVE and Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids will eat them alive in the mainstream media if they approve products without the proper PMTA work that's submitted. So, I think that's. I hope that at least the synthetic nicotine makers, like Ron Tully and TFN and some other companies now that we're seeing pop up, are serious about this and they can sit down and create a pathway. I do know that at least they're serious. I know that Ron Tully is serious about this. I'm not promoting him or anything. I have nothing with Ron Tully, but I'm saying from the public statements that I've seen where he says it's not our fault. We manufacturers, it's not our fault that your legal system is not covering it. It's not our fault. But this is the opportunity for the FDA to say, well, look, let's sit down and create something under the CTP, maybe call it less harmful nicotine delivery program, whatever. Come up with a fancy name that satisfies everybody, and then tell the manufacturers, hey, tell me how you produce this thing. Tell me what testing you do. Let's take all that and make some guidelines, put out a ruling, and let you create this product. And maybe products will be a little bit more expensive. Yeah, products maybe not. You're not going to be able to have Captain Crunch on your fucking label, but products will be available. A, for all these small businesses like Nick's, B, for all these ex-smokers that depend on it, and C, the most important, for future smokers to try out vaping if they can't quit with everything else that's available.
Correct.
But who's going to grab the bull by the horns and make it happen?
Not me, buddy. I'm going to Albania. Screw you.
Albania.
I'm done, buddy. But I'm done, but I'm still discussing this because I care about this industry. Don't think that I don't care about this industry. And I want to see it succeed. I just don't have it in me to put up this fight again. I've been kicked so many times trying to do the right thing here that at some point you say, no, I can't.
Yeah.
But I am discussing this because these are viable options. I just hope somebody's light bulb wakes up and just snaps on top of their head and they say, okay, let's do something. And so hopefully somebody will take the reins and go with it.
Are you getting beachfront property in Albania?
I wish. There's some beautiful beaches. You know, there's a Riviera of Albania down there. There really is. You should watch some YouTube. There's some really, really pretty. By the way, you know who I talked about in France, Nick? I talked to the Chubby Gorilla guy. You know, and I said,
Abe?
Yeah, I said you're the perfect guy to step in, because we discussed this PR thing, and I said you're the perfect guy to step in. And I said you have a lot to lose because everybody uses your bottles, right? You have a great relationship with all these manufacturers. Step up and take it over. And you know, of course, you know,
you scared him.
Yeah, no, I don't think I scared him. I mean, I think that he gets it, but on the other hand, too, you know, you're running a multi-million-dollar company. I get it, but. I mean, if you're dependent on these manufacturers, I think somebody like that would be ideal. They're not competing in the same space, right? They're not competing selling e-liquid. You're not some, you know, attorney that came wrong to get some money, or you're not some group or whatever. You're kind of like an independent within the space that you have a great connection with all the manufacturers. Somebody like that, it would take somebody like that to step up and say, or you know, a flavor company or something to step up and say, I'm going to take the reins on this. Let's just try it out. What do we have to lose? We've tried everything else. Yeah. We literally have tried everything else.
There's nothing else
left. Over and over, like Nick said, the PMTA is not going away. I don't care. You can beat your head on the table. It is not going away. And I don't see any scenario where an open vapor product will get market authorization, period. And I've been saying that since the 510 was invented.
Yeah. So, Jimmy, I got a question. Can I ask a question?
Of course you can, Nick. Of course, buddy.
So, we're getting into this whole thing with PMTA and everything as far as the industry. Whatever happened to them with disposables and stopping those? Did that fall by the wayside or what?
So again, the FDA is at fault here, which again, we can't make mainstream media. If we had this group right now, that I would be blasting them, right? If we had this PR group that we were talking about a couple of years ago, this was clearly an FDA oversight, because at the time this decision was made, disposables were irrelevant. Okay? Disposables were irrelevant. Yep. So the FDA says we have to remove these flavored pods, because that's what most of the kids were using at the time, right? So the disposable all-in-one was not included in that decision. When the flavored pods were removed, they just opened up the door for these companies, A, to bring the disposables in, and then B, use the synthetic to skirt around it. So the FDA does not have authority over synthetic nicotine disposable products, period.
Right.
They don't have authority over synthetic, period. If you're a manufacturer and anybody comes from the FDA and asks you about synthetic, tell them to kiss Dimitris' ass. They cannot do nothing about it, period. Yeah. So they can't enforce it, is what I'm saying.
As they're visiting these manufacturers here in our state, one being today, they asked for samples. Would they say, well, we know you're not using traditional nicotine, but can we have samples of the synthetic?
I would give them samples of my urine. Yeah, exactly what I would give them. They have no right to be asking this. They have no right to be asking it. Yep. And you know what's another funny thing about this is how screwed the FDA is. It's very, and Paul probably will attest to this, it's very difficult to distinguish in a lab setting synthetic nicotine from tobacco-derived nicotine. Oh, their molecule profile is so close that I can make a product probably with tobacco-derived nicotine and label it as synthetic. And I mean, it would take 10 years for them to be able to, if they are ever able to tell the difference as well, too. So they have a huge problem on it. They have a huge problem on their hands right now.
Supposedly they're doing carbon testing.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I do know, speaking to all the experts, that it's very, very difficult to distinguish between the two. So Look, that opened up the door for the disposables. The disposables just basically came in and took off that market, that 18 to 25 market that was using these pods, and that's why they became so very, very popular in the United States. And of course, the vape shops follow the trends. All the vape shops started bringing them in. Now there's a plethora of them on the shelves, and it became the number one product in America right now.
C-stores, smoke shops, vape shops, everywhere.
Yes. And the bad thing with a disposable is that a customer can buy that at a C-store. They don't need the expertise of the Vapors Depot. They don't need the expertise of a vape store that has people that know inside, because then just pick it up and open up the packet and vape it. They don't need anything. So once you start promoting a product and you start bringing it in, don't think that these tobacco shops and these C-stores don't see this happening. It's going to start going into that distribution. I know a couple of companies, I can't say because I'm under NDA, but I know a couple of companies that have signed big contracts with some of the bigger tobacco distributors in the Northeast that are moving now these tobacco-free nicotine disposables into the big travel plazas, all the gas stations, the Wawas, and all that stuff, and all that.
Their product lineup. Yep.
Their product lineup. So
the footage or the inches, whatever.
It's going to take away from the vape shop business as well too, because it's probably going to be cheaper, and it's going to be easier when somebody goes in to buy their beer and beef jerky and gas or whatever they buy, to pick up a couple of things, just like we used to do with cigarettes, right? When we stopped to get gas, we bought cigarettes.
What's crazy about those stores is these companies will tell them how much to put on their shelf, and they will actually put it there for them and say, you're selling this instead of these Marlboro flavors or less of a facing of it. You're carrying this 2 feet of disposables, and then they have to carry it. They don't have a choice.
Yep. And a lot of them like it because their profit is way better than it is with cigarettes, right?
Gas.
The cigarette companies, I knew a lot of this in the back, but now in my stores in Greece, I had VAT come and approach me to put Glow and their pods in my stores. And I was like, how much, like the money you make off of it is ridiculous. But they said, also, we will pay you $1,000 every year for every store that you put these products in.
Wow.
So you got 5 stores, you get $5,000 a year. So that's how they entice you to put, everything inside. You don't make a lot of money when you sell it. So these gas stations, when they have 10 different brands of cigarettes, they get all these bonuses, on top for every location that they have as well too.
Coupons and the whole deal.
Yeah.
Kickbacks.
Exactly right.
Legal kickbacks. Thing. I mean, it's insane, when they tell you how much facing you have to have of their product, and some of it entails disposables. That market's going to get pushed because they make money on it.
Well, I didn't know it was like that. It's just like the supermarkets. Then it's exactly like the supermarkets.
Well,
does it with
the
same model
with end caps. Yeah, with end caps, because I remember that's what we used to do. That like, oh no, Kellogg's goes on that end cap, and it needs to be there front and center, and they're paying this. I was like,
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coke. Wow, I didn't know it worked that way.
Oh yeah.
I think that the vape store, again, we missed the opportunity in 2018, 2019 when Juul was around. We did the same mistake, right? We did the same mistake. I think we all can agree. Ironically, down in Florida, there's a store. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I just saw them about a year and a half ago saying, "Oh, fuck Juul." But when I visited their store, they had two displays full of Juul in their stores. Of course, when it was hot, they were selling it. I was in New York for the New York Vape event in 2018, and I went and visited my friend that has City Vape in Astoria in New York. Greek guy. Great guy. I helped him get that store up and running, and he's doing very, very well. And that was when New York was discussing on banning flavors. And he was the same way. He was like, fuck Juul. And he has a Juul sign on his window that says Juul sold here and a countertop display of Juul pods. The irony is just, I just want to shoot these people. I mean, it just drives me absolutely crazy. And again, here we have the same situation with the disposables. We can fight them and we can say whatever. Look, I think that disposables have a place on the market. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Right? I truly believe. But what is this fascination of this industry constantly shooting their balls with their own gun? Like for the last 6-7 years, you follow this trend, you go balls to the walls with this product, and you forget about every other product in the market. I guarantee you, in 90% of the stores you're going to go into, none of the employees are trying to get somebody to say, "Hey, try a refillable pod." They're just like, "Oh, you want that? Or you want a watermelon?"
Yeah.
Same liquid, by the way, in all of these pods, right? It's the same company that's making it. Oh, and by the way, here's another little fun fact. For years in America, we laughed at Chinese liquid. Oh, you're gonna vape decaying? You're gonna vape decaying? What is the matter with you? We got all this American liquid. Guess what? Everybody's vaping Chinese liquid and disposable pods now, and nobody's complaining anything.
Nobody's bitching.
It just drives me nuts. The hypocrisy. Hey, look, and I get
do
it.
you think they just don't get it? I mean, they have to understand that product's coming from China. It's coming from China. The liquid's coming.
Some get it, but a lot of these owners, they don't have a clue. They just open it up and throw shit on the shelf.
I guarantee you, as somebody, because I'm
behind the counter.
When I see made in China, I know everything that was in that fucking box was made in China. That means
it is
the whole
financially impossible to send liquid to China to have it filled. It costs way too much.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you could bring it here to fill it.
Yeah.
Again, that's costly. Number one.
Yeah.
And so what makes and I know because I'm working with a disposable thing in Europe right now. For a 5-flavor product that we want to put in our stores. And the reason why I want to do it is because all the products that are being sold in Greece right now are illegal. Yeah. Nobody has a legal disposable on the market in Greece. They're all with foreign warnings on them. Nobody's gone. There's a process in Greece. You have to file a TPD. You have to register in the country. You have to submit your testing. You have to get a CID number. I mean, there's a whole process of putting a legal product in Greece. So I'm having demand in my stores for these products, and I'm selling Elf bars and Geek bars or whatever, but they're not legal. So I'm going through this, and guess what? Every one of these pods uses the same liquid. If you take banana ice from Paul and banana ice from Nick, the only thing that's going to change is the marketing between the two products. The liquid inside is exactly the same.
Exactly the same. That's hilarious.
The aesthetics and the battery.
And now what you're seeing is a competition again with marketing, just like we saw with liquid. Look, when strawberry cheesecake came out and strawberry milkshake in America came out as a liquid, it was the hottest. It was the bee's knees, right?
Yeah.
With Suicide Bunny starting it, and then everybody was chasing that same dragon.
Yeah.
All the recipes, I mean, Capella Vanilla Custard 1. I mean, we know what goes. Everybody knows the recipe, right? So the only thing that changes, how can we make this label the shittiest label that's out there to give us an edge over the competitor? Now we're seeing the same thing with disposables. It's like, how are we going to make these disposables so more child appealing so we can get an edge in the market to sell more products?
It was bad. Yeah, I was just looking that Juul still has 50% of the market, which I thought was still kind of high.
Yeah, that's only the Nielsen market that you're seeing. The Nielsen market does not take in consideration vape stores and online sales and other outlets. So they only count of what goes in through the tobacco wholesale, meaning that they can only count, and Bonnie Nielsen that does this for Wells Fargo has told me this personally, they can only see at wholesale invoices that go to these outlets. And let's face it, our industry, half of them are doing, deals under the table. Number two, a lot of them are being sold in not in that same traditional channel. So you're not going to get an accurate picture of who has the market share in the vapor space, period. And which is again another fault of ours as well too, and not being able to put that's something I'm struggling with in Greece right now. We went and met with the Department of Health, we met with the Department of Taxation, and in every question that was asked, well, what is your industry valued at right now? How many stores are in Greece? How many employees are there? I don't have an answer. I don't. No, we can't.
Yeah.
So it really puts you in a predicament when you tell, I could get data for Tennessee, but then that data is going to be based on my membership, right? So I can take my 30, 40 members and take an average of what, if they want to tell me how much money they make, how many employees they have, and I can create a really nice Excel, which I did here in Tennessee a couple of years ago. So I was able to tell legislators, look, this is what we're looking at overall. One of the things that I used in Tennessee a lot was McDonald's, because at the time when I did this survey, I did a huge database of vape stores, and we had about 375 vape stores in Tennessee at the time, which we happen to have about 375 McDonald's at the time in Tennessee. So I would tell politicians, look, imagine that if all McDonald's in Tennessee shut down now, how many empty buildings you'd have, how many employees you'd have out, and stuff. So the vaping industry was the same. In fact, it would be better for health if all McDonald's would shut down. But as an economic tool, that's something that we don't have. We don't have an accurate number of what we have, and we don't. It's unfortunate.
Just to help Curtis out, anybody have a chocolate flavored vape that they like?
Yeah, plenty of them.
Well, I threw out barista s'mores.
The s'mores.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the only one I can think of. That's the only chocolate I think I've ever vaped.
Well, what about that mint stuff that you were in love with?
Oh, mints.
Yeah.
Was that chocolate though?
Yeah, you had like a peppermint patty one, and then you had.
I didn't taste any chocolate though. That's
no, and then and then they had their it did have chocolate in it,
Yeah,
but then the other ones were more spearmint and mint.
Yeah,
and
spearmint.
Yeah.
How about you, Nick? Dimitri, chocolate vape that you would recommend for Curtis?
There's something from Five Ponds. I think they got something with chocolate in it.
They do have something. I'm the worst person to ask because what I vape is nobody vapes it. So I'm the worst. I definitely don't vape chocolate.
We're pretty much all fruits. I'm just seldom that I actually vape
a street chocolate. I don't know, man.
No, I wouldn't vape a straight chocolate. That's for goddamn sure, dude.
Oh, it's Bowden's mate.
Bowden.
Semi-sweet chocolate.
The problem with chocolate vapes is that chocolate itself has a feel to it when you put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Where you don't have that same feel in vape. There's quite a few flavors that have that same parameter where when you take chocolate and it melts in your mouth, you have a different feel.
You have that texture.
That texture, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard to mimic in a vape. So there's not a lot of really good chocolates out there, but yeah.
And Daniel, you can't put mango in there with chocolate, you asshole. Fucking mango.
Why not?
You don't like mango, Dimitri? You're not a mango guy?
I'm not a big mango guy. No, I'm not.
Mango,
I like very cold stuff. I'm very into the I like the throat because I make 12 milligrams. Yeah. I like a lot of throat hits. So I put a lot of WS-23 in my recipes, and I like fruits, but I'm down more of the citric side, and the lemons and the limes and the pineapples and raspberries down that avenue with a lot of coolness in them.
Well, I'm kind of curious. What would you say your number one flavor profile would be at your grease stores?
Tobacco. By far.
Tobacco, huh?
Really?
Yeah. Europe in general is tobacco as well too. So I launched a line in 2018 called Tasaki. Tasaki literally translates to ashtray. And because a lot of Greeks, they come in to quit smoking, and you tell them, hey, what kind of flavor? He's like, oh, give me something that tastes like an ashtray. Because they've been smoking so much, right?
Yeah.
So I came up with this idea, and it's a big seller in Greece, but I created a one that's just straight up tobacco that tastes like a cigarette, and then I did a caramel and an apple and a mint. So I have a variety of this tobacco flavor. So down that what we call semi-gourmet tobaccos. So they're not straight up tobacco, but they're tobacco with cherries or tobacco with nuts, tobacco with fruits. Those do very, very well. They're more into the creamy, heavy vapes. Like Italy is the same way too.
Yeah,
tobacco is number one. 60% of the market in Italy is tobacco. France the same way as well too.
Yeah.
So a lot of the European countries are like that.
So they actually doing it the right way over there, starting with the tobacco and a high milligram and working their way down.
Oh, a lot of people are staying with a higher nicotine as well too. This downplaying of nicotine here was more of a manipulation
cloud
for people
chaser.
to buy. No, I don't think it was a cloud chaser. It makes more sense for cloud chasers to lower their nicotine because of the delivery nicotine, but they're getting the same nicotine as me. It's not like they're just vaping more. I think trying to get people down from nicotine, I think is a mistake, honestly. I think as an industry, we shouldn't have done that and spend as much time as we did and focused on that. But we're seeing that a lot of people in Europe are maintaining that 12 to 18 milligram because they use it as a cigarette. They vape 3-4 mils a day. They're happy. They're not smoking cigarettes. and that's all that really that matters to them. And those products, a lot of 10 mils in France are huge sellers. You see little old ladies come in to buy 3 10 mls, 2 Z-Coils or whatever, and they're done for the week. They got their supplies, and that keeps them off cigarettes. The hobbyist side of vaping, of course, is extremely important, right? We need to have that hobbyist side. I think the mistake here in America was the hobbyist side took center stage, and then the harm reduction side took a back seat. And that shift, when you would tell a smoker to go into a vape shop in 2017, and that vape shop sold you a Baby Beast tank with 3 milligram e-liquid as a starter kit, was a huge problem here, and it sent a lot of people back to cigarettes because it just it's not the right product for them to start off with.
Well, yeah, that's true right there.
Yeah, they should go there if they want to. It's an exit in the journey, what we call. We talked a lot about this yesterday with Phil on the show, right? We all here, because we've been vaping for a very long time. We've been on this journey, and with this journey, there's all these little exits, right? We tried cloud chasing, we tried rebuildables, we tried replaceable coils, we tried dripping, we tried this, right? And then you get off all these exits. That path is the consumers for them to take and go where they want to. But the main thing is for them to quit smoking. So that initial, like that platform, this is what we called it, platform, right, for the Inikin. That platform is the most important. And you need to have that right tool, that tight draw, 12, 18 milligrams, and get the hit, tobacco flavor to quit smoking. Once you quit smoking, wherever you go from there, it's up to you. But telling people, come in, you're going to start with 18, and then we're going to drop you down to 12, and we're going to drop you down to 6, and we're going to drop it. That's a huge mistake that this industry did. Yes, it sold a lot of liquid, as Nick will attest. Between 2016 and 2018, we sold tons of fucking liquid.
Yeah, they did.
But we lost a lot of people that went back to cigarettes because it wasn't satisfying.
And what would be the number one sold device at your shops?
Well, I mean, I sell 70% Inikin in my store. So
yeah.
The Zenith, of course, is the top seller. It still is, yeah.
Look at Nick smiling. Come on, John. That's a simple question. We don't have Tom in here to ask the food questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have Tom. But, of course, being Italian, I'm going to ask you, Italian or Greek food? Which is the best food in the world?
Oh, God.
I mean, according to Ramsey, Greek food is better than Italian. I didn't say it. Now, Gordon Ramsay said it. He's on the record that said Greek is better
he did say that. I saw him say that. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Get him, Nick.
His restaurant sold both Italian and Greek.
I did.
And it was all amazing.
Yeah.
Wait,
I love Italian food.
Probably the better.
I love Italian food. Don't get me wrong. I think the cuisines are very similar, and I think just in general Mediterranean food is really, really good as well too. So I don't think everyone has its good things and its bad things. So I don't think one is better than the other one. I think whoever makes it, is what it comes out to be. I can make some really mean Italian dishes as well too, being Greek. But my restaurant was 50-50, 50 Greek, 50 Italian for all these years. Yeah.
All right, who makes the best olives? Greeks or Italians?
I think Greeks do by far. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because of the climate. And this is the only thing that we really still make in Greece. We don't export anything else except olive oil and cotton. That's the only two things. It's like the plantations here in America back in the 30s. But this is the two things we export. But we have some of the best olive trees because of the location and the soil that's there.
The climate, the humidity, yeah. Because that was actually thrown at me the other day because I was doing my olives, and someone goes, "Oh, I make the Greek style." And I said, "Well, I kind of do the Greek thing too." I said, "I make a batch the way I was taught as a kid by my grandmother, the Italian way, and I make a batch the way they make it in Greece." And you really can't tell the difference. I mean, you can't, especially when you're dealing with American olives, the non-superior olive.
I love olives. But, when you talk about olives and you open up a can, it's these little rings that you put on the pizza. There's no flavor into that, right?
Yeah.
But
that's not an olive.
Wine, olives, and cheese, I could live on that every day. But, when we're in France just now, we went to Bordeaux where VDNV was. It's located in Bordeaux. And there's actually a wine university in Bordeaux. I don't know if anybody knew this, but it opened in the 1970s, and people from all over the world come to Bordeaux to learn about wine because it's the wine capital of Europe, right? And then they go back to Argentina or California, whatever, and they open their own wineries. They get all the information from there. And I had some of the most delicious olives and wine I've ever put in my mouth in Bordeaux this past trip. It was just amazing.
Better than Red Stag?
Better than Red Stag, I would say. Even though Red Stag, that's tough to beat, but it was really, really good. It was really, really good.
I was waiting for John to say wine, Italian or Greek.
Oh, come on. Yeah, come on. Yeah, there's no challenge there. The Italians don't make the best wine, but I know they make wine better than the Greeks do.
There's this one wine that the Greeks make that I really like. It begins with an M. What's it called, Dimi?
It's called
Alla
vinegar.
Mattina?
Which one?
Alla Mattina?
No, it begins with an M.
Yeah, Mala Mattina, the sweet.
Mala
that's a little
Mattina.
sweet.
It's the sweet. It's the
The
same
sweet
as
wine. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, Mavrodaphne. Mavrodaphne is what you're talking about.
Mavrodaphne, that
Yes. That's a strong wine. That's a strong Greek
It's
wine.
good right there.
Yeah, that'll put you down for the count.
Yeah, that's
look-
that's the Italian. That's the Italian dad making the
Yeah.
wine in the basement kind of wine.
As a wine connoisseur, I will tell you that every country's wine, you'll find a good wine in
Yeah,
every country
every
that you're going to go. California, 90% of the wines are shit, but there's a 10% of some wineries in California that really put out some really good wine. But the majority that you're going to find in the supermarket are, sulfates, you get a headache the next day. They're not good wines.
Yeah.
But I think in every country that you're going to go, you're going to run into that situation. And I will tell you, 2 years ago, they took us to, we were in France again with another company, and the owner, just the nicest guy in the world, takes us to a Michelin 1-star restaurant. Me and Phil, like, you don't have to impress us. We'll eat anything. We just want really good food. But he wanted to treat us, takes us out. And this is like 5 waiters, 7-course meal. You know how these places are. So the guy says, oh, they have this wine here. It's like 500 euros. And it's from like 1973 or whatever. This was the best year for it. And, I'm a wine guy. I was like, well, I mean, I'm not telling you, but if you want to order it, I'll try it. So they bring the label was faded off. This is how old this bottle was, right? And everybody praised it so much. I was like, I cannot wait to like put this thing in my mouth. It was shit. It was the worst. It tasted like spoiled vinegar with like wet socks. It was just so bad.
It
of course,
tasted
I was like, oh, this is delicious, but yeah, I think every country has like, if you know what to buy, every country has really good wine.
Yeah, unfortunately, I live in the capital of Gallo wine. Gallo Wines is here in Modesto. That's where it was.
Yeah.
And everyone, it's like, oh, I bring you a bottle of Gallo. That's when you know you don't like somebody, is when you give them a bottle of Gallo wine.
You live in the box wine capital of the world.
I do. That's what it is. What they had. We used to have the Bartles and James factory that was here too, because that kind of started with them too, and now that's in Kentucky, I guess. But yeah, that Bartles and James, I go, can't we make some decent wine here in Cali? But we're Modesto's all Gallo. I mean, we have the Gallo Center, Gallo's Winery is here, and now they bought all the places up in Napa. Yeah, pretty much.
There?
Huh?
Boone's Farm, are they there too?
Boone Farm's in Modesto.
God, Boone's Farm. Now you're bringing back high school.
Yeah, Boone Farm.
Morgan David.
The gas station wine.
David?
Yeah.
Are they there?
Yeah, 99 cents a bottle.
That's the gas station one. But look, in Greece,
hell?
there's been a push the last decade to like all these these new winemakers that are coming along, the organics and like lead factories and stuff like that. Well, there's some really good wine coming out of Greece as well, if you know what to order, right?
Right.
And when Nick was up in my restaurant, I don't know how much we drank, but this one brand, Red Stag, we know the family that makes it and the state that makes it, and I mean, really, really. This new generation of winemakers that really put a lot of love and effort into this wine. It is a delicious wine. And, I sold it for $25 a bottle. Really, really affordable for a very good wine. But when Nick came up, I mean, we drank, I don't know how much we did. We drank a lot of Red Stag.
Cooler. It was done.
Yeah, it was done. Yeah, I think we finished it. Yeah.
No mas.
Well, we're going to jump into news and advocacy. I know it's late for you, Dimitri. If you want to stick around. Nick, you can stick around. But Tim's going to jump into news and advocacy. And I got to give him, Nick, I'm sorry, Tim. We're still working on the bumper. We're going to try this one out.
All right. I'll give you credit on one. At least you went back and did old Metallica from the Kill 'Em All album. All right, I'll give you that one. I was like, at least you didn't walk into load and reload. So
No, I didn't.
I can suffer through it for now. I already threw you the bone.
Yeah, I got you. I'm working on it.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about a little news and advocacy. Today's news actually is falling outside the borders of the United States. Both of these reports are coming from different countries, but let me share here real quick. One is actually a little promising. It was a newer study that came out from the UK. So let me share my screen. I'm sure most people here probably know a little bit about it already. It is a more recent study that came out. Everybody likes to see some positive headlines. But again, these are the things that we talk about time and time again, is that there's all this research that goes on to this end in other countries. And this one, I guess, lends a little bit more credence to the idea that in the UK, they support vaping quite readily, to the point that they have vape shops inside the hospitals and stuff. But I thought this one was interesting. Again, if you want to put this one in your holster, and if you want to use this as some fodder to fight the good fight and talk about some, how vaping benefits people. This was an article basically that talks about how smokers, or at least chronic smokers, people who were heavy smokers switching to vaping, did see a pretty. Wait, we got somebody we got to get rid of there, John. I don't know if you saw that.
I'll get rid of them.
Okay, thank you. They had a rapid boost in their heart health results, and so this was a trial, a randomized trial that isolated people who were chronic smokers and put them into a few different groups to test to see what the results were for people that had switched to vaping. So researchers in London conducted a large randomized control trial on chronic smokers who had switched to e-cigarette vapes. And so the interesting part here is that this study was a 2-year study from front to back. But even after a month in, what researchers were finding is that trial participants had a significant improvement in the markers of their heart health. So it really deals with the cardiovascular elements of it. Ultimately, though, there's probably going to be a lot of scrutiny around these studies, just due to the fact that that people are going to try to pick it apart and try to probably prove it wrong. The British scientists found that cigarette smokers who switched to vaping saw a marked boost to their vascular function, and what they're saying is that this boost could lead to a significantly lower risk of cardiovascular disease. So that's the premonition from the outside looking in, that if they're seeing health marker benefits in vaping, that it could reduce some of the cardiovascular disease that you see that's attributable to smoking, most predominantly. So the quote here was that by switching from cigarettes to e-cigarettes, we found an average percentage point improvement of 1.5 within just 1 month, and that was from Jacob George, who is a professor of lots of big words. Jacob George, a professor of cardiovascular medicine and therapeutics at Dundee University of Britain. So he tried to quantify it a little bit more, and he said, and to put that into context, each percentage point improvement in vascular function results in a 13% reduction in cardiovascular event rates, such as heart attack. So people that switch to vaping and get away from the cigarettes see a 13% improvement in terms of their risk to having a heart attack due to smoking-related side effects. So the only thing I think that they pointed out in this article was that they didn't consider anything else in the study other than the fact that they specifically looked at vaping compared to tobacco smoking. And the same researcher went on to stress that e-cigarettes are not safe, just less harmful than combustible tobacco when it comes to vascular health. So he is still siding on the idea that we don't want to pitch the idea that vaping is 100% safe or is scribe to someone who doesn't smoke or someone that's looking to get away from smoking or lessen the harm that cigarettes can cause to them. Obviously, we don't want to pitch it in such a sense that we make people who don't need vaping or don't need to switch to something else as being something that they should just take up on a whim, and that somehow equates to, oh, well, you'll have less risk of other certain medical issues if you're vaping. But they're also saying that the studies are likely to fuel international debate and potential risks and benefits of e-cigarettes. The study was funded by the British Heart Foundation charity, and it took 2 years in totality. The total study group was 114 long-term cigarette users who smoked at least 15 cigarettes a day for at least 2 years period of time. And they were put into 3 different groups. So those groups consisted of people who remained smoking, so they took a portion of that, and just those people continued to smoke. And then the 2 other groups resulted in people that switched to e-cigarettes. One control group that had nicotine inside their inside the e-cigarettes, and others that were zero nic. So they had 3 different study groups to compare that to. But here's what the interesting part about the overall results were, that it showed that it did not matter if the vape products had nicotine or not. In both cases, those who switched away from smoking cigarettes saw improved proficiency in there's another big word, endothelial function. So what does that mean in layman's terms? That's the measure of how easily blood flows around the body. So people that specifically switched to some kind of a vapor product had increased health markers in their cardiovascular response. So that's good news in the sense that does provide some hope to the idea that people who are long-term smokers will see benefits from e-cigarette vaping. I don't know that they quoted, I don't know if this was a published research study. It didn't. There you go. There's your TikTok. There's a gratuitous TikTok photo. And they did kind of bring into the fray. I didn't really comment on it. I didn't like the end of the article so much because they kind of got into the subject of about how it could. They were trying to use a study to compare it to how the U.S. Center for the CDC sees things in terms of prevention, and how it would measure up to the deaths and the hospitalizations due to vaping, which that's in a totally different scope. And then they got into the whole thing about the THC and yada 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 yada, and how the British addiction and toxicology experts basically kind of equate the E-Valley thing to it being specifically a U.S. phenomenon, because it really wasn't seen in other countries or anything like that. So I don't know really why they went into that portion of the article and talked to that end. Because it didn't really enlighten the U.S. market in terms. They wanted to say that the CDC would be like, well, the hospitalizations and all that stuff. So again, I think we're still conflating the verb vaping. So my takeaway on that one was, I said that I just thought it was a good story that you could share to people who suggest that vaping flavors are more dangerous than smoking. And then I just kind of said, too bad our greedy politicians will not listen to this science here in the U.S., but follow the science, right? So I just thought that was a positive article, more good studies that come out of the U.K. Anybody got any commentary on that one? Anyone know anything more about that?
I don't know. I didn't know, but I like Daniel's response. I mean, we could use that as to help boners, to help people get a better boner if their blood flow is going through their body better. I mean,
I guess.
Okay.
That's Daniel for you.
I
That's
need something
important.
to keep it down, buddy. What are you talking about?
That's important. Go ahead, Nick.
All right. So moving on. Now let's get into Canada and the shame game. So this one was a little interesting. So there's a mother who's absolutely furious up in Canada because her kid got caught with a vape in school. They took him behind closed doors to shake him down, him and a few of his friends, and they asked him to drop his drawers, looking for vape products. So this one is just another one of those crazy articles. So a Montreal mom is outraged that her teenage son was asked to lower his pants at school during a search for vaping products. So he's in the grade. He's a ninth grader. His name is Andrew. I hope I say this correct because it sounds like an Italian name. Forgione.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, that's Italian.
Andrew Forgione. He actually called the experience traumatic, as he and 3 other of his buddies were implicated in the search during which all 3 were asked to drop their drawers, but not their underwear. So in the mad search for vapes crammed down in their pants or down in their, I don't know what they, I mean, if you're going to drop your drawers and nothing falls out, I don't know where else you're going to look. I don't know if
Canada.
Yeah,
I can tell you a couple of spots.
Yeah. I don't know if they're keistering that jewel, but they didn't get that far.
Well, hey, that'd be tough. That jewel square, that's I mean,
Well, I don't know. Some of those disposables are kind of roundish.
no, that's where they're round. I'll give them
Yeah,
that.
they're a little round. It was actually 4 students in total, and they all were between the ages of 13 and 16 years. So there was a little section down here. Let's see if I can find it. This is what he said. This is what Andrew had to say about the experience. He goes, "I dropped them. I had to grab the side of my boxers, move them around my waistband to see if anything fell out, and I had to turn around and do the same thing in the back." So they didn't ask him to spread them and cough, but they wanted him to shake out his boxers. Now, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a boxer guy myself, but I don't know, boxers are pretty loose. You'd think most things so most things probably fall out pretty quick. The unfortunate side about this is that even though her son was busted, because they did catch him with a vape, it wasn't like they just said, "Hey, come in the office and drop your drawers. We're looking for." It wasn't like a lockdown kind of situation, where they were getting kind of randoed. He did get caught with a vape to begin with, but the mother, and I'll have to agree with the mom on this one, that the parents were not notified that this was going to be the process or the procedure by which they were going to try to dig a little deeper to find stuff going on.
No pun intended there, right?
Right. So, it just said that school officials did find a vaping pen on Forgione. According to school policy, students are barred from bringing any illicit substances and items onto the premises. That includes vaping products. So now the school board, due to the outrage over the trauma that this kid suffered at the hands of school officials, the school board's going to initiate an investigation, but they did state that there was no malicious intent to the search. The school and the board said the search was regrettable, and they do not accept they don't accept that procedure as a way to investigate something like vaping in the washrooms. And then, of course, the lawyers are involved. A lawyer by the name of Julius Gray said it's clear to him that a search like that was unreasonable. Now, I don't know if someone's going to get sued at the end of all of this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure somebody's probably going to find a way to bring the high-powered lawyers in. Darren Becker, communications director for the school board, told CTV News that the school has a right to search students if there are reasonable grounds. But that doesn't really go into quantified detail about exactly how far they can go in terms of searching the students. I mean, you can take their backpack and have them dump it out. You can go search their locker. I'm sure most kids, I don't know about kids nowadays, at least back in my day, we had 2 lockers. We had our regular locker, and then we had a gym locker as well. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess there's a couple places. I guess you could have him yank his shoes off, pull down his socks, whatever. But apparently they do agree that they kind of, whoever decided to conduct this search maybe went a little too far. I was
just thinking, if it was a female, how outraged. I mean, if this is my daughter,
it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference.
No, male or female doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Not at all. And in fact, when I saw this story come across my RSS feed yesterday, I thought it was in China, but apparently it's in Canada. I mean, you can say all you want about communist China, but even that would raise eyebrows, And then my second comment on this is, I hope Forgione, or whatever his name is, his mafia buddies go and break everybody's knees at that school. This is completely unacceptable. This is bullshit. This is absolutely. This is not happening. happen in a civilized world at all. There's absolutely nothing that they can say that can be just. I hope they get sued, and I hope they lose millions of Canadian dollars, whatever. That's probably like $3 US, but whatever it is, I hope they get sued because it's completely unacceptable.
Well, and I agree on that one too, because it wasn't that long ago that we had the boardwalk incident, right, where the kids were vaping on the boardwalk and the one kid got tased. I mean, regardless of whether you want to say that he was acting out or being a little resistant or not listening to the command.
It's a vape, man.
Really. I mean, I just, I can't imagine kids are holstering multiple vapes down in their pants, to try to get to. I mean, if you're gonna bust,
it's a vape. This is where my point is. Like, I can open up my daughter's Snapchat right now, and I can get you Molly, I can get you meth, I can get you LSD, I can get you peels, oxys, everything you want out of her Snapchat right now.
Yeah,
I can find you all those plugs, and we're talking about a vape.
Yeah,
we're talking about a vape.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Ridiculous.
So, according to the end result, the student said he was suspended after the vaping pen was found on him, and that he's now since come back to school. He said that returning to school since the incident has been quite a bit awkward. I'm sure not only for the kids that are probably going to make fun of him a little bit, but I'm sure being in the presence of those school officials probably is a little awkward as well. The mother is concerned about how the experience might affect her son at his school. No adult has the right to tell a child to drop his pants.
Yep.
No one.
Absolutely.
She went on to say, "I'm not proud of the fact that he had a vaporizing pen on him, but I think that they should have gone about it the right way. They should have notified the parents. Someone should have been there for him." And I agree with that one. The thing that I took the biggest opposition to, in the sense that you're dealing with someone else's child, especially one of that age range. I mean, they're all underage to begin with, but the fact that the parents weren't called immediately and said, "Hey, your son is down here in the principal's office. We caught him with a vape on him," and allow the parent to come down and represent the child and at least be the adult in the room and allow her to control exactly how they want to deal with that student. The fact that they autonomously just decided to take upon this investigation by asking him to go that far, which was, I'm sure, highly embarrassing.
Yeah.
And kids already nowadays deal with self-esteem issues and all these other things. And when you've got these adults basically manhandling you like that, I just thought this was an unfortunate story. But again, I mean, crazy shit's going on. I think that there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I can agree with the idea that school officials should be somehow keeping track of what kids are doing, or at least not allowing them to get away with that sort of stuff. I mean, take the vapes away, whatever, you got, confiscate them, but don't take a kid behind closed doors and then basically humiliate him and make somebody feel that way. So that was just an unfortunate one. I mean, who's to say what else has gone on? This may uncover some other crazy stories that go on in the schools. So there's that.
Wearing his underoos.
A lot of school districts in America, they've taken out the doors and the crappers in bathrooms. So, I mean, this is happening. This is not the only incident for sure.
No,
Can you imagine trying to take a shit and they don't have no door there in a high school?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, how embarrassing can it be? I mean, that's traumatic for a kid,
Yeah.
Let him go in there and take a dump and take a puff off his jewel. Who the fuck?
Yeah. He's gonna make the bathroom smell better.
Yep.
It's the true poopery.
Well, everyone has a certain facial expression when they're letting one go. I mean, it's you're not just there. You want that privacy. You want that door closed.
I've been married for 20 years, John. I still don't shit in front of my wife.
No,
can you imagine you're a 15-year-old kid at high school and
Yeah.
you're trying to take a dump and the door's open? I mean, it's ridiculous.
I was that guy that waited to go home because I wouldn't take a shit in high school. I was that guy.
Yeah, well, and to Daniel's point, how is that not assault or pedophilia? I don't know if you want to go that far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
it's definitely an assault when you make a kid expose themselves. Period. I don't care if it's got an underwear or not.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a boy or girl. It's plain wrong. It really is. But But ultimately, again, I think the point, and I think what the point that I'm trying to make is, it's just a vape.
It's just
Man,
a
it's
vape.
just a vape. He didn't come in there with an AR-15. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Right?
just a
Yeah.
vape.
Yeah. He's not. He's
Call
not.
his parents. Hey, we caught little Timmy Bob Jr. whatever here with a vape. You know, spank him when he gets home. Do whatever you're gonna do at home. That's it, and we're done.
Yeah.
Well, does that story say anything about it actually being e-liquid or THC?
No, it didn't go
No,
into
nothing.
that. It just said that he got caught with a vape pen
Yeah.
on him. So, my guess is it's probably a Juul or something like that. I mean, I'm sure it's probably pretty low ball.
It's
I don't-
definitely. I will tell you, my 16-year-old daughter tells me there's more use of THC in the school bathroom
Right.
than there is of regular vapes.
Same here
Well-
in Modesto. It's
Yep.
really bad with yeah, and they're still and from what I heard, it's a lot of them are stealing from their parents. You know, because their parents have these THC pens laying around. They're doing their shit at night when they get home from work, and they're laying them around, and these kids are picking them up and taking them to schools. You know, they may have like 1 or 2 hits left in them, but to a kid, that's more than enough. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go into the contents of what they found inside that vape, just that it was named as a vape pen.
Yeah.
So it could have been that. It could have been that. Very easily could have been
Yeah.
that, but they didn't go into that detail.
Yeah.
So again, wrong
they-
of the school. And we don't know who exactly in the school was the one that conducted the search anyway. It could have been, we don't know if it was a truancy officer. We don't know if it was just Betty who works in the front office. She just was,
Might have
anyway,
been Jeffrey Epstein.
it could have been.
It could have been.
It could have been.
It could have been the school nurse. Well,
Never-
usually it's the vice principal that does all the discipline. So
Well, and that's true.
Yeah.
Either way, the parent needed to be in.
Yeah, a parent should have been present.
Should have come down and snatched their kid out of the school and said, it's now my responsibility. I'll take care of it from
Yeah,
there. But
yeah.
they shouldn't have left out of that. All right, so there's that. Now let's move on to advocacy. We're cutting a little close. All right, so this is for all of our friends in the chat and who watch the show from Tempe, Arizona. Looks to me like the Tempe City Council is expected to start the process of imposing a ban on flavored tobacco and nicotine products, including synthetic nicotine, at a work session on Wednesday, which was today. I know some of these come a little late because I don't catch them until right at the last possible minute. But I guess there was some virtual participation. But I would encourage people to reach out to their city council and speak up on this one. There's nothing on the table right now. There's no bill introduced or anything. I think it was just a committee to discuss moving forward with a potential flavor ban. But a lot of these things can move pretty quickly. So I would say get on the ball and speak up in Tempe if you want to get your voice heard. And how you are in opposition. This one's not set up with the form letter like most of. There's just an email address here that you can email to, which doesn't prevent anybody else from messaging in that lives outside of Arizona. You're welcome to comment yourselves as well. So there's that, and that will conclude the news and advocacy for this evening. And I just made my mark.
You just made your mark. Well, hey, Dimitri, want to thank you for jumping in there. Appreciate you coming on the show. We always love having you on.
My pleasure, guys.
Yeah.
I hope I filled Tony's B's shoes good.
Yeah.
You did quite well.
Yeah, you did good. You're not that Italian guy, but you're close enough.
I'm close.
You're
Una
close
pazza, una razza, they say.
Yeah. And after I was going to tell you, after my mom did her test, she was shocked to see how much Greek she was. Of course, she's from Sicily, and that area of Sicily was a lot of Greeks, Capitolota. So she goes, I'm not Italian. I'm not 100% Italian. I go, Mom, I didn't think you would be, Mom. Look at you.
Yeah.
You're white.
I find it. Did she find any Asian?
No, she found Greek. Oh God, what is that?
If she didn't find Asian, she's a true Italian.
Yeah, there was no Asian in there, but she was Greek and Assyrian.
Yeah.
Because that area was populated by a lot of Assyrians. So
she's true Italian, basically.
Yeah. My dad was the highest. He was like 80 some, but his family came from Rome, and to Sicily to leave because of politics. Then they moved to Sicily for land. So he has more, He was more authentic Italian, I guess. I don't know how it works.
Yeah,
I'm
my
afraid.
wife made me do that 23andMe. I paid $100, and she's
Yeah.
like, "You're Greek," and I'm like, "No shit. I could have told you that we didn't pay 100." I think she did it. I think she did it to see if I have any kids, with other women or something like that. Because they'll find that through that DNA tree. But thankfully, so far, I'm a two kid parent so far. So
Yeah.
hopefully, nothing pops up in the future.
That's funny. All right, guys. Thanks again, Paul. Tim, you guys anything else you want to say to Dimitri before he goes?
No, thanks to Dimi as always. Love
Yeah.
having him on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Love his insight. Love his work. So it's great to have someone like that on the show, so people can understand things.
I think you should do a YouTube cooking channel, Dimitri.
I've talked about this a lot. It's just that work is not, Let me tell you what YouTube has turned into such a content creator. I watch more YouTube than I do regular TV.
Yeah.
And I follow a lot of people on, but YouTube today is, you have to treat it as a business.
Yeah.
And if you're going to produce content for YouTube, you need to be consistent. You need to be involved in all social media, and you need to be consistently posting episodes. And it's just impossible with our travel schedule to be able to do that. So, whenever I feel like I'll get on Facebook and maybe do like something live and like just for my friends and all that. But when it turns into a business, it takes away a lot of the fun that goes from it. I mean, maybe when I retire from vaping or whatever, and
Retire.
maybe then, but doesn't seem anytime soon.
When they kick you out. When they kick you out.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, all we have is the views left. That's time to exit. We're gonna be vaping the views. It's gonna be the views hour.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody. We'll see everybody next Wednesday. Paul, thank you. Tim, thank you. And
all right.
we're out here. Thank you again, Dimitri.
Night, guys.
Thanks, guys. I'm gonna go watch.
What was that?
I'm gonna go watch Tiger King 2 now.
Oh God!
Oh, that's what everybody's watching that tonight.
Oh no! All right.
Okay. Good night.